Welcome back to Overtime here on WOTM. Marco, we don't talk a whole lot of NBA here, but we've gotten to a point here in this first round of the playoffs where I think it's really interesting because we have a couple of teams that have now punched their ticket to the next round, and we have a few teams that are still working their way out of the first round, including the defending champions, Los Angeles Lakers, losing a crushing game last night to the Phoenix Suns, 115-85. Lakers now go down 3-2 in that series. And I think we're at a point now with LA. Do you hit the panic button? Because Anthony Davis obviously wasn't on the floor. Yeah. They wasn't on the floor. There's people who think that LeBron could just kind of go into Superman mode, God mode, and come back once again. They didn't show it last night. Game 6 goes all the way back to LA, and they have a chance here to tie the game up and send it back to Phoenix for Game 7. What are your thoughts here as you take a look at how the Lakers are handling the Suns here in this first round?
Look, we know LeBron can get things done, okay? There's not a doubt about that. But you don't have Anthony Davis, first of all.
Right.
Second of all, you have a hungry Suns team, okay? They didn't get the memo that they were just supposed to show up and get beat.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So they're wanting to win. And then you have the rest of the Lakers who maybe don't have that consistency. Now, they won last year, but again, totally different environment.
Right.
This is like the first real playoff environment where you have people at the games and dealing with the home crowd. And you've seen in some places the home crowd can't be very nice,
Exactly.
So there's a lot that these guys are dealing with now. And while LeBron's seen everything, he's kind of looking over his shoulder and being like, wait a minute, where's Tristan Thompson or where's Kyrie or where are the guys that I kind of won with? Now, you won with a lot of these guys last year, but still, I think it was such a different experience when you're dealing with COVID and no fans, just kind of, almost like going to a gym and playing with your boys and leaving. It wasn't like this, where you had more pressure, you had TV cameras, where you had fans getting in your grill, reporters after the game. So this is a whole new thing. You'll find out quick in game 5 whether or not this series is going to be over.
Right.
Because the Lakers going down 3-1. I think once
or
they
6. You mean Game 6?
Oh, excuse me, Game 6. But
I knew what you meant.
Yeah, I'm getting because they took it. Right. So I think we'll find out quick in Game 6 if Phoenix can continue and win 3 straight. Which once they got down 2-1, people thought that the Lakers were just going to cruise here, including me.
Right.
But then Davis gets hurt. And there's a little bit of fighting, especially Chris Paul, who's got a lot to prove. He has really got a lot to prove. It'd be nice to see him win because he's still got some of that stench of Clipperdom.
Yes.
So maybe he can get that off by winning a series.
Exactly, and I think some of the Houston nightmares come back as well with Chris Paul. And,
that too, absolutely.
They were very, very close against the Warriors. I really like. I think you hit it right on the head. That Phoenix was not given that memo that they were supposed to just lay down here, and you're kind of seeing this emergence of Booker. I think Booker just needed somebody to kind of help take the reins, of veteran to help take the reins, and CP3 has really done that, and everybody else has kind of followed suit. Next series we'll look at is the Denver Nuggets and the Portland Trail Blazers. They gave us a great game last night, a double overtime game. Denver now leads this series 3-2, and the Nuggets won that thriller last night, despite 55 from Damian Lillard in an NBA playoff record, 12 3-point shots. He also had the 3-pointer to send it overtime, the 3-pointer to send it to double overtime. I mean, it's just an unbelievable basketball game. I think Kevin Durant called it a spiritual experience watching him play basketball yesterday. What's your take here on this series? This series has been really interesting because you have some injuries. Jamal Murray's out for the Denver Nuggets. However, Portland's kind of got the 2 guards, C.J. McCollum and Damian, that can really put it to you at any time. And last night they let one slip away.
Yeah, I think we've seen Portland guards hit game winners, kind of waving people off the court, in previous years. So this is kind of nothing new, but to score 55 and lose.
Yes.
Okay, that's I don't know if you remember Sleepy Floyd. He scored 51 in an NBA game against the Lakers back when you would get swept in the first round by the Lakers, whether it was Golden State or Phoenix or whoever, San Antonio, whoever played that best of 5, 3, and get swept 3 straight by the Lakers. Sleepy Floyd had a coming out party, 51 points, one game I'll never forget, and they lost. So, but that was amazing. The shots he was hitting were absolutely amazing. What a tribute to a real gamer. Portland's got some real gamers.
Oh, yeah.
I love watching them play because they fight and they do not stop coming at you. And Denver, which going into last year, Denver was, and Utah were not really expected to do much. And they're two of the better teams with some real good players.
Right.
In basketball right now that are starting to become household names. Look, if you play NBA 2K, you already know these guys. But
right.
For the guys who are just getting back to playoff basketball, it's a little new for them.
Right. Game 6 is tomorrow back in Portland. A very, very important game for Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, and those guys that they want to keep that series alive and send it back to Denver for an all-important Game 7. The Western Conference shaking out just as we thought. Really interesting storylines. However, in the Eastern Conference, we had some blowouts there in the first round, and the Nets and the Bucks have now both gotten to a point where they're now in the second round creating what I think is probably going to be the most interesting series in this second round. Obviously, we haven't had a chance to really break these two teams down because they just won their series yesterday, but what are some of your initial thoughts here as we now have the number 2 seed Brooklyn Nets, the number 3 seed Milwaukee Bucks about to shake it off for what we expect this to be a little bit harder than their first round series where they won by a gentleman's sweep.
Yeah, but I think it was important for Milwaukee because they had to get that, I don't want to keep using the word, but stench of losing to the Heat last year. Because that was really unexpected,
Right.
and the way they kind of just easily fell down, people were a little bit shocked by that. But why you thought that? Because Giannis is so outside of anything I've ever seen.
Right.
I mean, there have been great players. Obviously, I've seen Jordan, I've seen Magic, I've seen Bird, so none of that's new. But what this guy can do physically, I saw him pick up a dribble once, like at the three-point line, and dunk the ball.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's just
in 2
ridiculous.
steps. Yeah.
I mean, so he can do things that human beings weren't meant to do. And I think the added thing that he's done this year, if you look at his 3 games now, New Jersey only won 1 of those 3 games.
Right.
And Giannis went off in 2 of those games. But the other thing he did that he didn't do normally, only 67 made on the year and only 1 made so far in the postseason, was hit threes.
Oh, yeah.
He hit 4 threes against the Nets, hit 10 overall. And if he could add that element to his game, that's a whole new factor to consider in that series.
No doubt about it. We've only seen a few games of the Nets, the big 3, playing with each other. And I'd probably add the big 4 with Blake Griffin because, I mean, he's had a nice resurgence here. Do you see this continuing on, or does their lack of defense, they played pretty good defense against Boston, but, Boston was injured. Do you see that as a hindrance to them as they move forward?
Somehow, I fear that there's going to be a moment where these guys are going to be uncomfortable. I don't know what it's going to be, but I don't trust the fact that the 3 of them can work together when there's real issues to deal with. It's easy when you're winning series and nobody's underperforming.
Right.
But if they're facing elimination,
right,
and if things kind of go off the rack or off the train track a little bit, I'm not confident that they know how to deal with that as a group yet.
Right.
So that's what I would worry about.
Exactly. So we'll see how it all shakes out. Game 1 of that series comes your way on Saturday night. Well, coming up next here on Overtime, there's another interesting storyline there in the NBA. We'll talk a little bit about the Boston Celtics. We will also have some predictions. Alabama baseball, Alabama softball getting ready to tee it off in some really, really big games. We'll talk about both coming up next.